This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Welcome to Urban Planet, the show where we take you beyond the headlines and tell you what's happening in your city. Today we have a special show where we ask the question, where is the land? The land that Mumbai was supposed to receive for low-cost housing. Here's what we have lined up for you.
Mumbai's Lokhandwala complex is a prime example of how builders and politicians connived with each other to plot the city's biggest land scam. Maharashtra government cleared 400 files for exemption under ULCRA just a month before the act is repealed. And despite acres and acres of land to be freed in Mumbai, why it's not going to make any difference to the property prices?
Let's run you through the headlines though first. Narendra Modi goes back to Hindutva. He justifies the killing of Sohrabuddin and challenges the Congress to hang him. There's outrage over that statement. Legal experts say Modi should be booked. Give the nuclear deal a chance, says Pranab Mukherjee. In vain though, the opposition stages a walkout. Our top story right now is Modi's statement. The leopard, they say, doesn't change its spots. And just days before voting begins in Gujarat, Narendra Modi has gone back to his old anti-Muslim rhetoric. He has justified killing Sohrabuddin Sheikh in a fake encounter. Sohrabuddin says Modi had relations with Pakistan. Gujarat's chief minister had promised that merchants of death, as he called Sohrabuddin, will continue to be killed in Gujarat. So far, Modi has been campaigning on the development plank, but now it seems he is back to the territory he knows best.
जे सोहराबुद्दीन ने 4 राज्यों ने पुलिस होती हुए जे सोहराबुद्दीन पुलिसों पर हमला करता हुए जे सोहराबुद्दीन पाकिस्तान जोड़े ताना मारा बात हो एक गुजरात की धरती पर जो आंख ऊंची करे तो हमारी पुलिस शू करे सोनिया बेन ने रजा लेवा जाए अरे गुजरात की धरती पर मौत का सौदा करो आज हाल फंसे અને मैं એના માટે કોઈ ગુનો કર્યો હોય તો સોનિયાબેન તમારી સરકાર આખી મને ફાંસીના માથે ચડાઈ જાય.
Just to remind you what Modi was talking about, Sohrabuddin Sheikh was shot in what was termed an encounter with the police in Ahmedabad on the 26th of November 2005. The killing hit the headlines after Sohrabuddin's brother complained, leading to a probe by the Gujarat CID. At least 3 top Gujarat police officers, including DIG, DG Vanzara of the Special Investigation Team, were involved. Vanzara is still in jail. Sohrabuddin's wife, Kausarbi, was also allegedly killed by the police just days after Sohrabuddin. The matter is still being heard in the Supreme Court. Well, reactions to Modi's speech are coming in thick and fast. The Congress has said that action will be taken against Narendra Modi if the party wins power in Gujarat.
The answer to our question, if we were to give the same answer as Modi has given, would be to physically liquidate such a chief minister. But we don't give that kind of answer because we don't believe in that kind of politics or life. Is the phrase merchant of death appropriate? Is it too mild? Is this not Mr. Death himself speaking? This is a clear admission of guilt.
That was the top story of the day, but let's go back to Urban Planet now.
Thank you. On the show this evening, we take a look at a piece of legislation that was supposed to provide affordable accommodation to the people, but instead ended up filling the coffers of Maharashtra's politicians. It was called the Urban Land Ceiling Regulation Act, or ULCRA, an act that was reluctantly repealed by the Maharashtra government only last week. First, let's take a look at what Ulkra means. Ulkra, a law enacted 31 years ago, was meant to limit the size of land holdings in urban centres so that the rest could be used to build low and middle income accommodation. So anyone who owned a plot larger than the stipulated ceiling had to surrender the surplus to the government to increase the housing stock. The only way around this forced land acquisition was to get an exemption. This meant that private landowners themselves could build low-cost houses on part of their property under various schemes which also benefited them. Those who didn't had their property acquired and the projects were then executed by the government. Only a lot of them weren't. These, as well as a large portion of those that received exemptions, benefited politicians, builders and other well-connected people. Finally, under sustained pressure from the centre, the Maharashtra government repealed Ulkra last week.
Lokhandwala complex, one of Mumbai's most expensive addresses. Its residents affluent, many from the glam world and others just wannabes. Now for the shocker. Take a look at these residential towers and high-rises. Do they even remotely look like low-cost houses? Under the Urban Land Ceiling Act, at least, every one of these expensive buildings was supposed to accommodate the economically backward. Believe it or not, say at 900 rupees a square foot. Now here's how the great exemption racket played out. The Lokhandwala complex story is probably among the biggest ULCRA scams in Mumbai. A stunning example of how the government was hoodwinked into granting exemption from acquisition under ULCRA, on condition that this sprawling urban landscape measuring 6 lakh square meters would accommodate low and middle income houses. The application for exemption was submitted in 1989 by the Oshiwara Land Development Corporation in the name of a housing society, Samarth Cooperative Society, to build 8,000 middle and low income tenements. Under ULCRA, if the application was submitted by a society, it was also exempted from surrendering 5% of the flats to the government. Translated, this means the government would not and did not monitor one of Mumbai's biggest ULCRA schemes. Exemption was granted in 1989, but for the past 16 years, the government had no idea what was happening on the land it had exempted for low-income housing. It was only in 2005, when a complaint was filed to the ULC department, did the government wake up to the fact that 6 lakh square meters of land it had exempted for low-income housing had already been constructed upon, violating all grounds on which exemption was given. With a scam of this scale, the hoodwinking didn't stop here. Each tenement was to be either 400 and 800 square feet, and each buyer couldn't own more than one flat. The original builder sold the development rights to various developers who in turn appointed sub-developers, and flats were amalgamated to build posh 3 and 4 bedroom apartments. Under ULCRA, sale price was not to exceed 1,000 rupees per square foot, and where there was meant to be only one agreement between builder and buyer, there were 2 for each flat, one showing the rate offered under ULCRA and other for amenities to accommodate the actual price. But by far, the biggest fraud within the fraud, the original landowner didn't convey the property's ownership rights to the society, which was the condition for exemption under ULCRA.
One was, of course, you could form a trust and you could get around it that way. There were exemptions given. You could claim exemptions by saying that we are going to build low-income group LIG housing on part of the land, and then you were given an exemption. But there was no way that they ensured that this was done. We know many buildings that were built during that period of the latter part of the 70s and the early 80s, where actually so-called LIG were just rooms strung together into larger flats, So they were just LIG on paper.
Now, with the case being filed with the government only 2 years ago, there's probably only one way to settle: for builders to pay the government a suitable penalty. The Lokhandwala case is just the tip of the iceberg. From 1976 to 1996, 900 exemptions were given against 900 schemes, but none of these were monitored. In 1996, when a monitoring mechanism was set up, not a single scheme was proposed. In effect, in 31 years, only 62,000 homes for the poor were built, that too only on paper. In Mumbai, Prachi Zawdekar Wagh for NDTV.
The story of politicians, including many in the ruling coalition, misusing the act continues, even in smaller towns like Sangli, where almost all the land that should have been acquired by the state has gone back to rich landowners. As Tejas Mehta learnt, some of them were not too pleased that we found out.
I can do anything now.
We are on the road.
And also on outside. And also outside. I will come outside.
Come outside.
Angry threats, covert warnings. Officials at this school in Sangli upset as NDTV rolled the camera to shoot a school entangled in controversies. The allegation? According to the collector's office, this school, which is part of the Rajmati Nemgonda Patil Trust, is built on surplus land which should have been surrendered under the Urban Land Ceiling Act. But the trust, headed by former Sangli Mayor Suresh Patil, managed to get an exemption. Sangli, situated in the sugar belt of southern Maharashtra, is one of the state's smaller towns. But as we look around, it isn't difficult to spot the violations. Retail malls, car showrooms, housing societies, all on surplus land meant for the poor. We are right here in the middle of Sangli in an area called Indraprast, on surplus land where landowners had promised to build homes for the poor. But take a look around and all we find are posh, expensive bungalows, homes which only the rich and influential can afford. Here is the shocking truth. Documents reveal that 90% of surplus land under the Act has gone back to landowners as exemptions. Sources say those granted exemptions are connected with the ruling politicians, something activists and local leaders confirm.
Local politicians pass illegal resolutions in the corporation in their favor. The ULC office was burned down to destroy the records.
A clear indication that landowners went to any extent to retain their surplus land. Then they even went further to ensure that it stayed with them. They formed as many as 500 cooperative housing societies, most of them which existed only on paper. However, the administration still claims that the act has worked.
Are the poor benefiting out of this?
Definitely poor are benefiting. It's a man who is having zero land in urban area. He's benefiting here. That means definitely poor is benefiting.
But those working for the city's development wonder how.
There are no roads, no playgrounds, and for several years the city has seen flooding.
In Sangli, with camera person Shekhar Kasalkar, Tejas Mehta for NDTV.
It was a piece of legislation that was despised by every landowner, but a hotbed of corruption for politicians. So faced with the prospect of repealing the act, the state went on a frenzied acquisition spree, making sure that it cornered every last piece of the ulkra pie. NDTV shows you how.
It was a red letter day for the Maharashtra government, especially Chief Minister Vilas Rao Deshmukh. Sources in the state government say that in one fell swoop, the state's CEO cleared a whopping 400 files for exemption under Ulkra, just a month before the act was repealed. The speed and unusual haste betrayed the government's intentions. Clear as much as land as possible before the law becomes defunct. Several hundred hectares ostensibly for low-cost housing across the state. While the Deshmukh government worked overtime to make sure land was parcelled out, sources tell NDTV that land and wads of cash in penalties were being hastily cornered in Pune. Here, 170 landowners were served notices under Ulkra just 2 months before the act was repealed. Landowners in fringe towns such as Pimpri, Baner, Balewadi, Kondwa, Katraj, Lohegaon and Yerwada. In focus were 170 Puneites who own 600 acres of prime property. Rich pickings, considering 44 of them have to cough up 140 crore rupees as penalty for developing surplus land. Of these 44, 6 of them major developers penalized for constructing apartments in Yerwada, an up-and-coming township not far from the city.
It's hard to believe that this was dubbed a retirement city till say a few years ago. The frenzied development, soaring property prices and the boom in tech industry are the touchstone of this new Pune. Any wonder then why the city just 200 kilometers from Mumbai should be a prime target for politicians to milk the ultra cow.
The story is no different in faraway Nagpur. Here, Pandurang Mate, a small farmer from Hingna, is another victim of the government's acquisition spree. Mate, who grows jowar 30 minutes from Nagpur city, was first served the acquisition notice in 1976. 31 years later and only a month before the act was repealed, 4 acres of Mate's 5-acre plot were hurriedly acquired.
There are around 5 to 10,000 acres of farmland that the government acquired a month before the session. There is no point in repealing the act if this land cannot be given back to farmers.
So in the race against time, when politicians were pitted against the populace, guess who came up trumps? With Imtiaz Jalil in Pune and Prerna Thakur Desai in Nagpur, Prasad Ramamurthy for NDTV.
Now when the state government finally repealed the act, Mumbaikars heaved a collective sigh of relief. Large tracts of land that were previously tied up under Ultra would now be free for commercial sale and real estate prices would fall. That did happen, but only on paper. The reality? Much of the property is tied up in litigation or is encroached upon. Prerna Thakur Desai shows you how a dream went bust.
Whoever said owning a house in Mumbai would get cheaper needs a reality check. Let's ask the girls from Kandivli if they found their dream home. Amrish, how long have you been looking for your dream home?
It's been almost 2-3 years. I'll tell you what, I work in Chembur, and for the last 2-3 years I've been looking for a place over there. Absolutely out of reach. But so the next available option is Kandivli. We came to this place. For the money that we have, the quality isn't there. For the type of quality that we are looking for, I don't have the money.
And Pratibha, how big a house do you want?
I think a regular 2 BHK house will be okay for us.
And how much would that cost in Kandivli?
Anywhere between 65 to 70 lakhs.
All right. Indeed, owning a house in Mumbai, not so simple, a very difficult proposition. While Amrish heads to work, NDTV took Pratibha on yet another round of house hunting. From Malad to Andheri, from Thane to Sion. Pratibha wants a cozy house with a pleasant view. But the prettier the apartment, the prettier the price tag. Sample this. In Malad, a 2-bedroom hall kitchen flat costs 70 lakh rupees. Unaffordable for the girls. In Andheri, a 2 BHK flat again costs 1.2 crore rupees. Absolutely unaffordable. In Sion, a 2 BHK costs 2 crore rupees. Again, out of reach.
Every time I go for a house which I like, the price is so high that I can't afford it.
After yet another day of disillusionment, Pratibha returns home. But now, a glimmer of hope. The government has just announced that the Urban Land Ceiling Act will be repealed. Does that mean that the city's land base would increase? Does that mean Pratibha's dream house would soon be within reach?
Actually, ULC, the land which will be released because of this ULC, the construction, as per my knowledge, will only be completed 6 years down the line. So if you see 6 years is a long period, by that time the raw material and the demand both will rise to an enormous level. So I don't think so because of this ULC any drop of rate should be there right now.
Now dipping, now rising. Zigzagging property prices have kept Mumbaikars like the Goyals on tenterhooks for years. Then, when Ultra was repealed, harried Mumbaikars took heart, only to have their dreams turned to dust. In Mumbai, Prerna Thakur Desai for NDTV.
This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV 20.